Thank you for coming to our webinar today. Today we're going to talk about mastering year-end prep with Sage. It's going to be your ultimate guide to success. Next slide, please. Sage 100 is also another product of Sage that actually has been around for the past over 30 years. And they used to be Mass 90. They're a full accounting, manufacturing, and distribution system within one. You do have it on-prem, or it can be hosted in the cloud. Next slide, please. So within Sage 100, there's some close prep that you want to do when you're working on your year-end close. You always want to back up your data before you start closing any either year-end or period end. So that way you do have all of your information backed up somewhere outside of your normal Sage location. So that way, just in case something happens. You also want to follow the module closing order that Sage suggests for us that we will go over later. And then they also do have a module closing checklist as well. And then, of course, our general ledger closing, you'll verify your version number, which can be done when you go to your help within Sage 100, and you can actually see what version and what year your Sage 100 is on. And this will also allow you to look at if there's an upgrade that you want to start looking at, if you need to update just the version that you're in. So that way you have a good idea of what you're going into for the next year. And then, of course, your master console will be able to show you all of the users that are in the system. You want to make sure when you're doing year-end close that there's nobody in the system and no outstanding batches currently open. Next slide, please. You do not want to close your financial year until you've made all of your adjustments within the system and have all of your financial statements already printed or saved off in your paper list. The reason for this is because after you close all of these, you cannot go back in and try to redo and make any adjustments to prior years. So make sure that you go through all of your aging reports within AP, AR. Make sure you go through all of them to make sure that you have all of your accurate information and your financials are good before you close these. You also want to use the year end or the period end processing to make sure that you're going through the checklist and not missing anything. And then, of course, you want to go through your reports and get all of those printed for your period end, year end that you can select within your period end report selection. So within Sage 100, depending on which module you go into, so we're going to use accounts payable as an example. You go into accounts payable, there's a period end section that's within the module, and you can actually go down the list and there is a period end report, and it'll print out all of your period end reports, and it'll be individual reports that are printed out. Next slide, please. And before you begin, you want to perform the period end or year-end processing. You want to know if you are going to need to make any allocations now or later. So this is kind of a diagram that will actually show you if you do it now or if you do it later. So it's one of those things of making sure that you have any and every transaction posted into the system prior to closing out for the year. Next slide, please. I also wanted to include the suggested Sage 100 module closing order. So this is how Sage actually has it listed that they suggest that you actually close out your system. So that way you can make sure that you're following their guidelines and there's no issues when you're coming to closing everything out. So as always, you will always do a system-wide backup. So you always want to back up your Sage 100 in another location so that way you have it just in case something happens. And when you look at this, if you're in Sage 100 under the modules, you'll actually be able to see that these are all listed in there backwards. So when you're starting this, you're going to first close building materials, mobility for barcoding, and then go down the list. Now, of course, if you're not using that module, then you would just skip over it and go to the very next one. The very, very last one that you will close is GL. So when you're closing out everything, the very, very last one, according to Sage's suggestion, is always close GL last. Now, keep in mind when you're closing these modules, you cannot have any batches open or any unposted entries. So you want to make sure that you have everything posted before you do this. Next slide, please. What is Sage Intacct? Sage Intacct is an all-in-one financial management software that allows you to access your finances from anywhere, anytime, and will give you up-to-date information while your team is still working in the system and you update your dashboards. You can actually get real-time information. Next slide, please. And now we're going to jump into our demo. You see that we're in Sage. So I wanted to start off at accounts payable because we do normally talk about 1099s and we want to go over tax forms and make sure that everybody is set up for 1099s on contractors. So what I did want to show is in the actual AP module, when we come over here to set up, there's this great little functionality that's called vendor types. And as you can see, I have one that's 1099 NEC. So let's look at that. And what I want to show you is that we have it set up to where it says that the 1099 vendor is there. We're going to go to edit because I wanted to show you on the back end, you can actually come to the 1099 information forms. So you'll actually be able to set this vendor type up and say that this is a NEC vendor and that you want it to report to box 1. And when you save it, and we'll save it again, it actually saves it in as a vendor type. As you can see, we do have general trade and we have subcontractors as well. And those are things that we could actually set up the vendor. So if we come over here to accounts payable, go to vendors, and we just pick one. Now I know this is a corporation, so we're going to use a scenario where they're not. And you can see that in the additional tab, their vendor type right now is general trade. But when we drop it down, we can actually see that it has 1099 NEC. And when we save it, and then we're going to go back into it to view it, you can actually see that it updated the 1099 forms as well in here. So it's a little easier of being able to set them up on the vendor type. So that way, when you're setting up vendors, or if you need to go back and adjust the vendors, you can just select it here and then it'll tell you, okay, this is what the vendor type is. And it actually fills out the forms for you as well. So it makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to set everybody up and when you have new vendors as well. So then there also is report writing in here that you can do. So I created a custom report for 1099s, and you can do this within the report module. And so what I did was I made it to where it would have the time period. So you could do the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And then you can actually filter it down and say specific vendors if you want to have all vendors that are 1099s. And then you can do employees as well, which we know employees don't always have 1099s, but you can have the group by 1099 category. You can also do it by entity if you want to do this, and then also by form type. So this is something that would be very useful for you to make sure that all of your contractors has all of the 1099 reported information accurate, making sure that you're not missing any tax ID numbers, EIN numbers, so that way all of the information that you have is accurate by the time that you actually start doing your 1099s for the year. I always suggest to everybody to start working on it in October, November, so that way you can actually go through the list, make sure anybody who is on this report would actually have all of their information, and then you can reach out to them if you're missing any information, confirming email addresses that you have on file. those are the things that I wanted to show to you. So now I'm going to send it back so that we can put some of the things that we have. So we do have one category. It's how-tos and quick tips. So what we do is we try to put together videos and PDF information so that way it's useful for you of little topics of like setting up a paperless office for a customer, creating a custom lookup view. And these are just things that we have encountered that we know that customers have requested help on. So we thought it would be useful to have a video and a PDF of how to do these. Next slide, please. We also have our demos and overviews. So we did start doing Sage Intacct tips and tricks of different things that you can do within Sage, like enhancing different things and just little things that people don't think about when they're working within Sage and how we can improve their workflow. Next slide, please. We also have our upcoming webinars. We also have our recorded webinars. So all of our webinars are recorded and we do post them online. So that way you can rewatch them at your convenience. Or if you want to go back or forward it to somebody so they can review it, that's always there as well. And then you can also sign up for our future ones. So next month we are going to be taking a look at Sage Distribution and Manufacturing, SDMO, physical counts, and physical counts within Sage Intacct. Next slide, please. And as always, we are here to support you. So if you're ever unsure of which direction you want to take, whether it be Sage 100, Sage Intacct, or SDMO, we're always here to talk to you and be able to help you work through those questions. You can reach out to our wonderful customer success manager, Jessica, and she'll be able to schedule time with you or have a call with you and work through all of those questions. You can always go to our website to get all of the resources that you would need as well, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Thank you for attending our webinar today. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.